Everybody. I hope that you are having a wonderful holiday day. Ignore what's on the screen because obviously I can't. There's side of the family, and everything just sort of escalates. And the older the kids got, and then we had our own families, it just grew and grew and grew. Pretty soon there was like way more than the 35 to 50. So anyhow, and we had a pretty neat little place that my dad made sure was kid friendly. We had tetherball court and a little basketball court that when it got cold in the winter and we could put water on it, we had a little ice skating. We didn't tend not to get a lot of snow in the Pacific Northwest where I'm from because we're in a little group of islands, and so that was a moderate. In fact, the average low temperature was something like 44 and the average high 72, so we fit in a little pocket, and you had to go to the mountains or to eastern Washington in order to get a real distinct separation of the seasons. We just flew, moved, shifted in from one to the other. So, and it was pretty good, not too bad at all. I'd love to know where you're from, so send me a comment, tell me what state or country or whatever, and if you have a particular favorite holiday tradition, and we'll talk about that. For me, growing up in a large family, it was all about the kids. In fact, the neighbors have 4 little girls, and I think the oldest one's like 6 or 7. And I'll tell you, it was so much fun. They invited me over for breakfast, which I couldn't do because I was otherwise committed. But when I went over, took them a loaf of banana bread, a little, holiday treat, and the kids just are all squealing and so excited about everything. And that's one of the things I remember. It was always such a joyous event with the children who were, all excited about whatever little treats and gifts and toys or clothes or whatever it was. And, everything always shifted as the time went on. My son was the only last name of his clan, and my husband and I and our little family lived down in Seattle. My husband worked for a large company down there, and I worked also. So we traveled and commuted, and we had all kinds of people we had to meet. Families get divided and separated and whatnot, and so there were lots and lots of households to hit over the holidays. Well, him being an only child and a boy, there were 2 boys out of I can't remember 10 or 12 girls altogether, in time as time grows on. But everybody was so excited to see him. And we had at one point a Volkswagen. I remember trying to figure out how we were going to pack everything in that little Volkswagen to get home. And when I think he was 4 that year, and we left some stuff up in the Skagit Valley where all the families were. And when I got home, I said to my husband, we have got to set some rules and some limits because I'm not a lavish kind of a person, and I love, Santa is a big deal, and what he brought was in the stocking, and the packages could spill over from that, but Santa, brought one theme a year. I remember the year that I brought him, I shouldn't say I brought him, well, my son's old enough now, he's approaching 50, so he's got a little shaver. Golf, so a little set of junior clubs and some gloves and some golf balls and a little putt return. And so that was the theme, right? And then the rest of it was from the parents, and it was usually an article of clothing, something educational, and then a toy. So it wasn't a whole big deal. Well, that particular Christmas, everybody brought him 4 or 5 gifts, and I kid you not. I mean, I have how many? 8, 10 siblings. Well, there's 10, 12 of us at one point altogether. So we went home and we didn't even hardly fit in the car. And that's when I said, we got to set limits. So I requested that everybody, choose something, ask me if there was something that he needed or wanted. And then one item then that they just decided got to pick for themselves. And so that didn't help much. But it was an effort on my part to make sure something would happen. Anyhow, so thank you. I don't know where you are from, but I'm happy to have you here. This for me today is all about traditions. And because I've lived alone a number of years, I've set my own traditions. And we used to have, as a kid growing up, one present Christmas Eve. So I don't know how many of you have that rule. And then Santa, brought everything else on Christmas morning. And with 8 children, that's the household I grew up in, 6 brothers and a younger sister. I'm going to get something, prop myself up just a little bit more here. Excuse me for a minute. See if that helps. I might slide off here if I do that. And so, it's total chaos with that many people and mom and dad and whatnot. So it didn't take long. The presents got opened sometime between 6 and 7. Now the kids, some of them never slept. So they come out and start early, and mom and dad put a stop to that because they wanted to be there for the opening of the gifts. And then there was breakfast, and after breakfast, mom shipped all the kids outside. It didn't matter if it was raining or snowing. In fact, one year we had such a hearty snow in a place where we rarely got snow that we made igloos and we ice skated, and we just had all kinds of snowball fights. And hide and seek in the snow was always a kind of a fun thing. We had a little area that was wooded. We had, like I say, a little basketball court. We had a big swing set. Because there were 6 boys in the family, everything had to be sturdy, heavy duty, because boys are rough on things. And then, lots of room to play and to roam, and a little bit of woods on top of it. So there was a fort and other things. So we had a pretty healthy upbringing, and mom and dad ruled the roost with iron fists. You didn't mess with them, that's for sure. So as I got older and out on my own, became divorced and lived by myself then for the next 12 years, you develop your own traditions. And I was raised Catholic, although I will say I abandoned that religion at probably age 18, maybe 19. I think I might have had to succumb to parental pressure and stayed in it until I was out of the house. But once I was old enough and could make my own choices and decisions about religion, I left the Catholic Church. I'm somebody who's had spiritual experiences all of my life, and intuitive experiences. And, there were some of the priests were pretty old fashioned, and they're the only ones that could make those kind of, you couldn't tell them that you're having dreams that were, from from source, from creator. And at that time I didn't even know where those things were coming from, but I did have lots of prophetic dreams. Anyhow, as I got older and my world expanded and broadened a bit, then naturally I developed some other traditions. I loved to go to different churches. And so if it was a Saturday that a particular church worshiped, I would go to see, what that service was all about, especially if there were holiday traditions involved. And I really liked that. And then, and so I have been to I think every church known to man that there is, because I've always wanted to explore more deeply what God is, or what God has been and means to other people. I have found so many contradictions in people and their behaviors, regardless of what religion or church or whatever they did. So I've always tried to seek out my own spirituality, and I like to believe that I'm an ethical person, and one of convictions, that sort of thing. And so you can't really pull one over on me if you're an alcoholic and you're telling me one thing and doing something else. Or I can see that your wife has a black eye, or clunker on her cheek or whatever, and you can hear whatever's going on over there, and it's not a good thing. So in prayer, I've always done prayer, but my prayers have always been directly to God, that there be some intervention, that there be peace in the household, or whatever it was or is. So that's just my nature. I'm a curious person, and I want to know more. And let's see, traditions. Other traditions are, my mother baked up a storm. I imagine all of our parents, especially, at a point where you could afford the extra sugar and flour and whatnot. When I was growing up, everything was modest. In fact, my mom's daddy, for Christmas, always had a little grocery sack, and he put tangerines in that and taped a dollar or a $50 or a dime or whatever he could afford at the time. I mean, it's a big family. There were 10 of us, 8 children. And that's what he came. He always came with a bag, and he made everybody close their eyes and dive into but they were all the same. And so, but it was always a treat and fun, and it was great to have a little spending money that you could take to the candy store. Remember when they had little penny candies for, you could get sometimes 2 for a penny. Anyhow, so that was always fun and quite traditional. So, it was Christmas Eve when they developed that for the Catholics. You could go to Christmas Eve Mass. Otherwise, we had Christmas in the morning, either before or after Christmas service. And then we had presents and a meal. And of course, you got to feed kids, because they get squealy and whiny if they're not happy. So, and they're not to blame for anything. It's just the nature of things, right? So anyhow, if you're just joining me, then please let me know where you're coming from, and whether this is a traditional Christian holiday for you, or whether you're celebrating some other thing, whether you're alone or you're with family or have family or connections, and how you're going to spend your day. That'll be great fun for me to know. And I'm just going to share with you until we have something else we'd like to talk about. And I'm here for that. So I'm always here for you. Please share with me whatever you would like. I don't have a filter. I don't know why you should either. So just speak up. So that's what we did, and it was always a happy family. My dad was an old world Italian, and I'll tell you what, you've never seen a man more happy about having 8 children. If we took up, two booths at the restaurant, he would just sit there proud and, just beaming all the time. And in church, we always took up, especially when the kids were littler, we always took up one whole row of pews. And as the boys got older, and believe me, Mom referred to them all as football players. There was only a couple of skinnier, guys in the crowd. And then my sister and I was the runt of the litter, and I was the firstborn girl and just right around 5 pounds, and Mom had always had 8, 9, 7, 8, 9 pound boys. So when you have a 5-pounder, a little bit less, that's just a tiny little thing. And so I was pretty well pampered for a long time until I had cancer at age 4 on my left leg, and they had to try to save that. Anyhow, apart from that, it was a wonderful childhood, sort of beginnings that went south real quick, but we're not going to cover that stuff today. We're talking about holiday traditions. So my mother baked up a storm, and she delivered plates of cookies to everybody. And my mother loved recipes from around the world. If you were Swedish or Dutch or Italian or even African, she made dishes that reflected all the cultures, because she was just a curious person. I think I must have inherited that from her. So our kitchen cookie plates all consisted of kroenkake, rosettes, her mother's traditional cookies. So, some of those melting moment pecan and flour and powdered sugar things that just melt in your mouth. 3-layer chocolate bars. Anybody heard of those? The one thing that I think all of us have done, when I say all of us, that's my brothers included. When Mom passed away in 92, I picked up the torch for something called date cookies, and this was Grandma's recipe, her mother's recipe, and it had lard in it. And it was a very soft brown sugar cookie dough with a date and lemon filling that you put in it. And I always used Mom's cookie cutters, which were flower shape, kind of a daisy shape. And so they were just as pretty as could be. And boy, Mom just made hundreds and hundreds of cookies. I can't even begin to tell you. Thumbprint cookies and window pane, the stained glass, jam-filled cookies, and there were so many, I can't even tell you all of them now. Now, of course, in my 70s and living alone, but I did pick up, and I made date cookies for years and years, until about 4 or 5 years ago. I had to quit that. And my brothers, a couple of my brothers, who absolutely loved those, started making them. And that was really nice, too. In fact, a couple of them sent them to me because I had been sick for a couple of years. So anyhow, that's kind of the nature of my Christmas. As I get older, I didn't have a need to be around a lot of chaos for very long. In fact, I'm a deeply spiritual person, and Christmas to me is all about, and I'll use my language, it's all about being filled to the brim, overflowing with the energy of the Christ, wanting to be. In fact, I remember I think it might, as I'm thinking about it now, I remember standing outside at a house I was staying at one year on a bluff and saying, Christ had come to my mind. It was Christmas time, and I love the lights and whatnot, and I said, I want to be like him. And I think that's what I have been. My footprints have tried to echo that. I certainly didn't have his abilities, but I believe that we are in a time, humanity is in a time of expanded awareness of who we really are, that the Christ consciousness that's within us is waking up and is infusing us with the things that he always said biblically that we could do. And, it takes a lot of dedication and diligence. And for several years there, I didn't have it. I didn't have the will. And once you lose the will, then it has taken some doing to reclaim that for me. But that's okay. It's coming back. I've never lost it. That I wanted all of that, still do, because I know that something within us has these abilities, these capabilities that far exceed anything you could imagine. We are his children. And that's what this season now represents to me. So I like to have some time to, the first thing I do when Christmas comes, I'm going to jump all over the map, I can tell you that today, is there's a song that says, haul out the holly, put up the tree before my spirits fall again. You know that one? And so I have to find that because I forget the words and then I make them up. And if anybody's trying to follow me, most of the words are never going to be correct exactly. My son and I used to do that all the time. We had fun with it. But I want lights. I want lights around me. I don't care about most of the other trappings of Christmas, but I want the lights. And I know, of course, that is representative of the illumination within us that's growing. We all have a candle, that little spark of God within us. It's got to grow. So anyhow, so outside of the cookies and all the different, sweets, there was always the gifts, the love, the families that gathered, and we always, as time went on, you could drive around the neighborhoods and see the lights and the decorations and how people, and it usually was the wealthy. I remember one, I think he was a anesthesiologist, who just that little thing just that he built grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and encompassed, I think, both sides of whoever else lived near him, and music and, all that sort of thing. He wanted really to express Christmas and make it a joyful thing for everybody. And it's not necessarily joyful for everybody, is it? A few, how many years ago was it now? My mother died in 1992. My youngest brother died in 1993. In 1996, one of my brother's children died in an automobile accident. In 97, one of my brothers, the second to the youngest brother, also passed away. And that and some good friends and some other things. And for me, by Christmas of that year, I was like, where are all these people? And I was really a little bit mad at God. And I said, you know, are you trying to play 10 little Indians with our family here? It had just was dwindling. That year was a year of massive, big losses. And I think about it now, and I know there is no doubt in my mind that we're not this physical body. I take a little off of here. That'd be a good place to pinch. We're not this. We are expressions of our Creator as love and peace and truth and trust and harmony and just, kindness, all the good things that we're supposed to be. And the soul, when it leaves this physical body at death, when I go, I will be going what Edgar Casey called through God's other door. There are many mansions waiting for us on the other side. Now, for me, when I took my mom to the other side in 1992, which was the first experience I had of the divine, seeing myself as a divine being. I saw myself as an angel with wings. When my husband's dad passed away, before he left, I went to see him. I can lift out of my body and go do these things. And I stood in the doorway as myself, like this is how I see myself when I go do something. And he saw me and he called me over, and it's not possible for him. I mean, he saw me, and I was doing that through a meditation kind of a thing. I don't really meditate. I go and find a quiet place, and I go inward, and then my spirit expresses itself. And he called me over, and I took his hand, and I said, I didn't say anything. He took my hand and he said, I'm afraid to die. And I listened to him talk and be afraid, and the eyes being a little bit cloudy, and I squeezed his hand and I said, Jesus is waiting for you. And he said, well, how can he? Because God counts the living and then the dead, and I'll be dead. And I said, oh no. I said, you keep him alive in your heart, and because you do that, that means that you are going to be counted. And I said, and they'll be waiting for you. Jesus will be waiting for you, and if you need help, I'll be here. And his eyes brightened, and he thanked me, and I stepped back, and I went back into the doorway, and he nodded, and I left. And he died a few days later, I think. I came back from that visit and made my husband a plane ticket. That's what I remember, for the next day, and he died within a couple of days of that. So when you have the experiences of the divine, in which you understand and recognize yourself as someone who is more than what you're looking at here. I don't even have the best voice anymore, and yet I could bring it back if I sang more. We are just expressions of love, and that's what children are. We forget about that as time goes on, and we have to take on all the weight of the world, and it sits pretty squarely on our shoulders, kind of weighing us down sometimes. So be sure that you breathe in and sit upright, and make sure you get those shoulders, or your neck, stretched off of your shoulders, that your head goes up where it's supposed to be. You have nothing to be ashamed of or afraid of, ever. Ever. I don't care what you've done. There was a reading that captured my imagination one year way back in the 90s. And a person asked, and now this is a psychic reading of Edgar Cayce, a well-known, well-documented psychic. And there's like 80 some healing protocols in that. And you can't say that lightly, right? You can heal from something, but there's things involved in order for that to happen. Well, anyhow, this reading had to do with what was it now? I'll see if I can remember. Does it slip my mind for a minute? I get sidetracked in that because there's so many things. It was asked if, that's what it was, the murder. Is it possible for the murderer to be forgiven on their deathbed? And the answer came back, and I just have to paraphrase everything. I don't have a photographic memory. I just have a memory that locks a certain aspects of things in. And the answer came back when the intention is to be forgiven and to forgive, then yes, it's possible in that moment before death even that the person can be forgiven. If that's possible for somebody who's committed a heinous crime and who is really sorrowful for that and don't realize it until they're getting ready to die, and there's lots of people who get afraid, to die. They don't know what's coming up. My brother died of one of them, of harming himself. And I went and found him in that. And, I tell stories that most people are not going to believe, and you don't have to believe it or trust it. I tell it so that it will ring some kind of, or flip some kind of a switch in you. You are more than you think you are. When I found him, he was pacing in the dark. Now, this is a good Catholic boy who, it was just pacing back and forth, and what I could feel, all of the thoughts, all of the things that had weighed him down, and his heart was so big that he didn't know how to cope or to deal with those things, that he just didn't, he did not know where he belonged, because as a Catholic, they teach you that that's an unforgivable sin, to perpetrate harm against yourself. And he knew better. He knew within himself that that he just couldn't cope. It was too much. It was overwhelming. But he knew he did not belong in hell. And in fact, what I recognized in the experiencing of his, what he was going through, what he was feeling, how he ended up nowhere, not knowing where to go, nowhere, not knowing where, I realized that he had already come from hell. He had been in hell for a long time. And so I was able to, I'll just finish that story, because I was able to call on some angels, some angelic help, and asked if it's possible to come and get him. And indeed they did. They came to I've never seen angels that big before in my life. Just massive, big angels. They were like pillars. And took him, and he went away for a couple of months. And when he came back to me, he said, "You knew these things." And he said his thoughts that had weighed him down and caused him to not forgive himself, that led him to take the action he did, he said, affect the whole of creation. Now, those are his words. And he said, you knew this. I said, there's something inside of us that knows things, and that's why I'm telling you this story. It's not the best Christmas story, is it? But leading up to the fact that year there were so many family losses. And since then, my dad, and so let's see how many. We had 3 brothers leave us by then. My mom and my dad, a couple of nieces, some very dear friends, and it grows. And this is a cycle of life. This isn't to be once I got over that and understanding an awareness, a deeper awareness that hits and stays with you, then it all is well. You know that I'm never going to be afraid of death, ever. I don't care. Somebody can walk in here and murder me, and I will be asking God to forgive them. They know not what they do. Forgive me when I make an error in judgment. And I just ask that when I see the chaos in the world and the wars and the fighting and the bickering and the greed and the goes on and on. My daily prayer is, please forgive us. We know not what we do. We're all part of it. And we can't get angry, resentful, frustrated. And frustrated is something you can get out of a little easier than anger, rage, frustration. And for whatever reasons that you have or that I have had in my life that I've had to overcome, that's throwing gasoline on a fire. Every time I think about something that I've done in which I mistakenly, I'm going to say it now, at the time you're just miffed or pissed or whatever it is that's going on, and you don't care. You would like to throw a dart or an arrow at that person and make it count. So I have. But once that's done and you see the look on their face, all of a sudden for me it was like, how could I do that? Now you don't know what else to do, right? You have to develop a sense of what's right and wrong. I don't believe necessarily in right or wrong. I'm saying that if you don't feel good about what you have done, then you're the only one that can change that. And you can. It's a thought. It's only a thought. And you can say to yourself, forgive me, for I know not what I'm doing. And lead me, to a better path. And so that's how I've spent my life. Anyhow, you know a lot about me now. Life is interesting for us. We're supposed to be experiencing all kinds of things here. And believe me, I have. Everything from all different kinds of abuses to perpetrating abuse on others, and to walking a path of not the best things. I'm a product of the 70s, and I tried quite a few of the drugs and whatnot, and discovered for myself that wasn't the best thing for me. Alcohol. Oh, I love alcohol. I could be addicted. So what do I have to do? I have to not and control it. And so, I have, and people who know me, my girlfriends are just hilarious. About once a year, they try to get me out and give me a glass of wine with supper. And then I have one who's she's just a little squirrel. She will just keep topping it off a little bit until I become silly. And when I become silly, I'm a lot of fun. And they just love that. Now, that isn't necessarily fun for me at the other end of that when you're nursing a hangover. But no, I've gotten pretty much to where I don't have to do that anymore. But I'm just saying, I've tried all kinds of things. And, what works, and what doesn't. And I'm now in control, pretty much. So most of the time. I think I just better stop there. Anyhow, I just love you guys. I have the best family of light. You support me in so many ways, through my social media outlets, through my telling of my stories, and I'm still on age 40, and I still have up to this point that you don't know a lot about, but I'm going to start this coming week and begin bringing you up to speed with because all of this, my story, isn't about me, although you always, you can't help but connect. I get that, woman. It is about how I have come to the knowledge, to the wisdom, to the knowing we're here to experience things. The manual that we don't have, that we can read, is within us. And it's that part of us that feels good when we do something or get excited about something, or our intuitive sense is trying to give us a piece of information that will help us in some way, and we get excited about it. That's the God aspect of ourselves. It's the part that is not driven by our logical, linear, rational self. It's driven by our Creator, our creative self, and it comes from inspired thought, which comes in here, and then we translate it into how am I going to do that. When I started the YouTube channel, I had written a book, actually a couple of books, and had been told that I'm a wonderful storyteller, but a crappy writer. What a terrible place to be. If your mind doesn't want to go in the dump after that, then. But I had already was aware of it. But I was told, really by guidance. I said, well, what do you want me to do with this? And I got the knowing that set it aside, because your story about what you have learned about who you really are, soul, physical body, right? So your spiritual life, your mental, and where you put your thoughts, and then what is creating, what you're creating, and we are all part of that in creating this world that we live on. So if there's chaos, and I'm putting more anger and frustration at the war, for me, it's the money that's being spent going into all that crap that I don't want my tax dollars being used for. I would rather figure it out in a group, my own little group in my community, where we have harmonious thinking about what's possible, and even if it's just gardening, and you're growing enough that everybody gets to share something, and that neighbor is going to grow the potatoes, and that one's going to grow some corn, and I'm going to grow, a certain amount of vegetables or whatever, and then we're going to share, so that we all have healthy, organic food to eat, instead of relying on other sources, other minds out there that don't have my best interest at heart. And so anyhow, I can go on about that forever too. But it's not about the story. It's about us reclaiming the sovereign nature that we are, which is within us. And we're being told from our experiences, from the path that we've walked, because it's logical, that we should be going and doing this certain thing. I've lived a life that started with guidance getting a hold of me and saying, you need to stop this and go do that, and my mind said, yeah, right. Okay, doubtful. And the next thing I know, as soon as I said that, Source said, you didn't pay attention to me. And I said I got every word. And from that moment on, that was 1990, I have walked a path in which I said, what's next? What do you have in store for me? And I may not know right away, but the knowing comes. So my story, the reason I have this channel is so that I can show you through my experiences what to look for and what it feels like from the inside, not from the outside, not from my external world, not because let me tell you what happened to me yesterday. A piece of my tooth fell out. It's a holiday. I can't do a thing about it. I went to somebody's, a good friend's, for a supper Saturday night, and when I left their place, the car went into power saving mode, and I drove 15 miles an hour to get home because the engine light was on. It wouldn't come. It wouldn't let me go. It locked itself in that speed. So now I've got repairs, auto repairs I have to do. I got knowledge that I've got several other things going on. That's just two things of a life that it seems to sometimes it rains on you. And in my way of thinking, what I said to my guidance, my source, I said, you've always got my back. I get a little anxious because I'm somebody who has a really, really limited fixed income, and without additional income, I don't have I have little to go on except my words. If they could propel me, I would be around the world by now a dozen times. But I said, you have my back. You've always had my back. I have a cozy place, comfortable, warm, shelter, roof, food, some wonderful people. I've got this great social media families that support me in so many ways, and I don't need much. There's nothing for me to ask for. So when something happens like this, that I don't have any money to repair the car. My computer, I knew there was another big thing. My computer crapped out, and that's the second time in 3 months. So now I'm stuck trying to figure out how I'm going to I don't figure out how. I say, you got this, you know my needs. And so I just step back and we'll figure it out, right? Anyhow, do you understand what I'm saying? I live trusting that God, my source, is my source, my substance, my sustenance, and my supply. I do this and act as if, because I am his daughter. I am your brother and sister. You are my brothers and sisters. We are family of light, and together, when we get our minds working on something, I understand that we may go into some war next year, and I'm already preparing. I want to do some meditations. In one of the readings of Edgar Cayce, he was asked at the end of World War II if that could have been avoided, the war could have. And the answer came back. Now, when I say the answer, we all have a team of guides and guardians. If you need financial help, then you get some financial nudging from your inner compass. If you have a relationship problem, then you're going to get help from and nudging, urging about what direction to move in, words to use, compassion, forgiveness. Those are the things that are real hard for some people. And we have there's no end to it. We have all the resources at our disposal, but we have to learn how to recognize it when it comes. And it's a nudging, it's an urging, it's a sense that you got to do something. And so that's what I'm all about. I'm here to nudge you, to urge you to look beyond or behind your story. If you had any inkling of the things that I've been through in my life, you would not know why I'm even able to move upright. And I've had so many bones broken. I've had so many things happen, abuses, etc. And for me, it's just like, I'm not going to say it's one big adventure. It was horrible going through all those things. However, I've learned from them. And in learning, you grow. And from the growth comes wisdom. Wisdom. And so, use my wisdom. Let me be a bit of a guide for you, and through my stories. And I'm going to start again back next week with back into my 40s. In the last one, I came back from taking my mom to the other side, and with that, massive big changes happen. You never can see yourself again the same way when you have an experience of the divine. And so we leave off with me going back to work and trying to integrate myself, and we'll pick up there. So I just want to wish you a wonderful life. Beautiful beings. You're beautiful, courageous, and wonderful beings of light, love, truth, trust, harmony. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy to be here. And, my channel is my soul's journey. It's all about how your soul matters, because it does. It matters more than you know. Let's start paying some attention to that, and go in and check out a few of my videos. Every topic so far, there's probably some missing, and all you have to do is leave me a comment and a message of what you'd like to know more about. And believe me, my life has been designed for me to experience so many things that you can relate to. That I'm not going to say solutions for you. I have steerage in a direction of where you might find the solution or the help. And my website has how you can reach me if you want something more personal attention to something that's going on for you. So Merry Christmas, everybody. May the spirit of love and joy fill you not only now to the brim, but may it carry over into the new year, so that we become expressions of our Creator through love, peace, harmony, kindness, joy. Be good to each other. Learn to just become a step back and experience how you're feeling about how you want to do something that may not be the right thing to do. Just notice that and just step back and connect with that feeling. Things will start to come up that are going to steer you in a more positive direction. And if they don't get a hold of me, I promise you I can. I'm almost certain of it. So, I love you. I love you beyond your imagining. I love you this much. I mean, it gets big, and it goes all the way around you in a bear hug. And I want you to feel that energy of love and light and truth and trust. I adore you. Your Creator adores you. And love yourself. Love this planet. Gaia provides us with all of our needs, and we have to step into that and be involved and take on some aspects. Whatever's easiest for you is fine. Take the small steps. They don't have to be massive, big steps at all. And Until we meet again, I want you to be well, stay safe, be happy, be kind, and know that you are loved beyond, far beyond your imagining, and that let the love within you grow. If you want to know more about me, just click the description below. Please hit like and subscribe. That helps me so much to grow in this channel, and it helps for the information and the joy, or whatever. We've had some fun today, and, and even a Christmas carol. And so with that in mind, I leave you with joy to the world. The Lord has come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. Bye now. Thank you for joining me.